there's definitely a lot of kind of reflection that's gone on in the last period, because clearly what happened with the Artsakh War, what happened in the country itself over the last few years, is not a good reflection on what all of us have done, the aspirants, non-aspirants on the ground, because we've taken a major setback. I would say, Eric, as I look back at the 20 years where on average I was in Armenia 5 to 6 times a year for 20 years straight, and I've been involved, as you said, in a number of initiatives. A lot of them are economic development related in the South, in education, in health, etc. And so I've seen it from different angles. And what I've concluded is that probably if I had to do one thing over again, and it probably wouldn't have been successful, but nevertheless, it would have been to insist on day one with the powers to be at the time and since then, that the diaspora cannot be a spectator to the key decisions the country is making about its future, because it cannot be simply a charitable institution. And that's exactly what we collectively allowed ourselves to become. We became silent partners. We absolutely, even though a lot of work was done and research and investigation on what to do, what to suggest to do, none of that made its way into policy. There was no venue for that to happen. And you could have said, okay, what choice did we have? The answer is we could have said, not until you do that will we engage. And we didn't do that. And I think that allowed, and that's at the institutional level, the aspirant institutions, but also at the individual level. And look, the reason is because I at least grew up in Lebanon and then in Canada and the US with the fantasy of having a free, in quotations, motherland. Didn't do anything to achieve it. It was handed to us 30 years ago. And I felt the compulsion to just help engage, and no conditions, just go. And 30 years later, I realized that by attaching no conditions, particularly to have a constituency, a role of some sort in the dialogue, that was absent, Eric. And I think absent that, we in a way may have aided and abetted what resulted, whether it's the lack of institutions, whether it's the corruption that happened, whether it's any number of things, by our inaction. And by the way, we could have been rejected and we could have been thrown out. But I think that if generation after generation was thrown out, the country would have woken up and said, wait a minute, how are we going to access this diasporan potential if we don't include them? We allowed ourselves to be included without being included.